looks like a tornado came through there.
Big storms in the west and an unusually mild start in much of the east.
Look around, there's no snow.
Is it a sign of what's to come?
It's nothing. Wait till 2050.
On News and Review today, talking about the weather and global warming. Hello, I'm Carla Robinson. It has been a strange winter in Canada. In much of the country, deep chills and snowy blizzards were way behind schedule. Other areas were hammered by vicious storms, the kind that are supposed to happen once in a blue moon, only they were hitting every couple of weeks. It has all been a bit unnerving, and it has had some Canadians thinking hard about global warming. We begin with a report from the CBC's Darryl McIntyre in British Columbia.
For what feels like the umpteenth time this winter, this is what the morning commute looked like in Vancouver today. In Lotusland, this is just plain weird. But then in BC these days, weird weather is what everyone is talking about.
It looks like a tornado came through there.
And no wonder. For thousands of people like Murray Lambert, this year's intense weather has hit close to home.
There was a garage came up here.
In fact, this is all that's left of Lambert's Vancouver Island home. A record-breaking windstorm knocked tree after tree on it and the neighbors' houses on a night Murray Lambert will never forget.
The hairs were up on the back of my neck. I was so scared. Like it was like a jet engine was going, and the noise was so loud. It just, it's mind-boggling because it's scary. It's like you think about it right now. I think about it and I just get that feeling in your gut of how that was just, it was wild.
Everyone on Lambert's cul-de-sac huddled in one house that night. They emerged in the morning to a scene they never could have imagined. Vehicles crushed, almost every house damaged, some virtually buried by debris.
It's just wild to think that all of it happened and the chaos that happened, that everybody got everybody and everybody was safe.
That same storm also wreaked havoc in neighborhoods on the mainland. It cut power to 250,000 homes and ravaged Vancouver's treasured Stanley Park. Other storms dumped snowfall after snowfall on the usually green city. And although on average winter temperatures here average 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, Vancouver and Victoria are now in the grip of their second spell of sub-zero temperatures this season. Even Vancouver's infamous rain is coming in bizarre amounts, causing rivers to flood their banks and widespread property damage. If it seems like weird weather is happening more often, climatologists say that's because it is.
Spent a long time thinking about the ocean.
Environment Canada's John Fife has studied decades worth of hard data on the subject.
And what our research tells us is that the number of intense storms, like the ones we saw last month, the number has been increasing. And this has been a sort of a steady increase in the intensity of storms.
It's not like it's coming at any surprise.
Andrew Weaver is one of the world's leading experts on climate change.
We've been saying for decades, or 2 decades at least, is that what climate change is going to give you is it's going to give you increased precipitation in the winter, coming in extreme events, and at the same time you're going to get increased likelihood of summer droughts. And so we're in the early stages of this, of course, and there's much more dramatic changes in store down the road.
Everyone is an expert in climate change.
Whether it's to world leaders or these high school students in Victoria, Weaver believes it's his moral responsibility as a scientist to deliver the message, climate change is not just coming, it's here.
The levels of greenhouse gases are increasing dramatically.
And he says if humans don't radically reduce greenhouse gas emissions and fast, planet Earth will soon be unrecognizable.
This is nothing. Wait till 2050. This is scary. I mean, the kind of climate change in store in the next 50 to 100 years is equivalent to the climate change that existed between when the dinosaurs roamed the Earth in the Cretaceous and today. I mean, that's 60 million years of climate change happening in 100 years.
Weaver says that is a scientific fact, but not everyone buys it. Even in the path of this year's devastation, skeptics are easy to find.
I don't know if that's got much to do with it. We've always had different changes in weather and stuff like that. And I think that this is just one of those changes.
And now that no more trees are close enough to fall on his house, Lambert says he'll fix things up, move back in, and be ready in case next winter does bring another bout of severe storms. Daryl McIntyre, CBC News, Sauk, British Columbia.
In the east, it was unusually mild. Snow was AWOL. Backyard skating rinks were just mud and grass. And ski resorts had to lay off hundreds of employees while they waited for winter to finally make an appearance. This is what CBC reporter Peter Gullidge saw when he took a January drive across Newfoundland.
Winter in Newfoundland. There have been some doozies. They still talk about 2001. More than 700 centimeters of snow blowing away the records. Last April, snowstorms. Someone thought it would be a good idea to put me out in it. But so far this year, it feels a little different. Stephenville, on the west coast of the island. On a January morning, the temperatures somewhere around April.
Okay, guys, what we're going to do is the same thing, Andrew.
Jason White's the neighborhood mechanic, and this is his business.
Shiny, brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new.
Something like this sets you back how much?
You're looking at about $6,500.
You need to plow a lot of snow to pay this puppy off.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely.
And how many times have you been out with it?
I've been out once. Once.
If that wasn't bad enough, he also sells snowmobiles.
Terrible year. Terrible year like this, you know, like look around, there's no snow. It's raining all the time, so what are you gonna do, you know?
Man, it's only like this in October, November month. It's not like this in January. Far from this, especially around here.
Last year, he bought a snowmobile to go deep into the winter woods. It's useless in these conditions, so the logs have to come out of the woods the hard way. Hundreds of kilometers, hardly a sign of winter.
So here we are. This is the morning of day 2 of our quest for winter. We're in central Newfoundland. We're in the woods, and you'll never guess what this is.
They call Ireland the Emerald Isle, but maybe they've never seen Gander in January. At the just reopened Gander Weather Office, they call this year an anomaly.
Well, it explains why people are thinking that we haven't had winter.
Paul Mullet is keeping busy at the White Hills ski shop, but so far this winter, it's White Hills in name only.
We usually get lots of snow to get at least a couple runs open. Right now, nothing.
750 kilometers later, end of the journey, the streets of St. John's. Not a flake, nothing white for the city's snowplow fleet to push, just white lines on the soccer pitch. They're calling this January game sporting history.
Never before have I seen a game in January, even in the snow.
A weather phenomenon in the Pacific Ocean called El Niño was a big factor in the mild winter. It happens every several years and warms the surface waters. The yellow, orange, and bits of red on this map show where it was heating up. That usually makes the winter in North America warmer than usual. This year, though, it has also added heat to the debate in Canada about global warming. In January, a poll by Decima Research found that the environment was the #1 concern for more Canadians than healthcare, Afghanistan, or the economy. The pollster says the weather was a factor in the result.
Canadians have increasingly come to the view that the weather patterns that they identify as anomalous or unusual, they associate with climate change. And they do tend to believe pretty strongly now, and increasingly strongly, I would say, that human activity is contributing to this change.
Nobody ever will be able to say one particular year is because of global warming. But what we can say with a great deal of confidence, in fact extreme confidence, is that the likelihood of occurrence of more years to come with the Rideau Canal not freezing over will increase, so that maybe now it's once every 5 years, once every 10 years, 50 years from now it'll be every year, so that it'll be 1 year in 10 it does freeze over. That's the kind of projections that we can make.
Those sorts of poll results have been prodding politicians to take action. Prime Minister Stephen Harper's government was widely seen as skeptical about global warming, but it is now promising to do something here in Canada to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. In fact, the whole issue has taken on an urgency never seen before in Canada, and a report from a United Nations agency warned what might happen if more isn't done to fight global warming. The CBC's David Common tells us what it says.
If the world's recent extreme weather wasn't enough to make people believe climate change is real, thousands of the world's top climate scientists say they've got the unequivocal proof that humans are almost certainly to blame and that the world needs to respond now.
I think anyone who would continue to risk inaction on the basis of the evidence presented here will one day in the history books be considered irresponsible.
The international report says the world will continue to experience more frequent and more intense heat waves, stronger winds and cyclones, extreme precipitation in some regions, droughts in others, and over much larger areas.
So I think humanity has the wisdom to evaluate all the evidence and then take decisions that would reduce the risks and dangers that might exist in the future.
Sea levels will rise, fed by the melt from rapidly shrinking glaciers and ice caps. Much of what the scientists are seeing is in Canada's Arctic, but there's also great risk in South Asia, particularly to some of the small islands.
It is within your lifetime that you may be faced with inundation of your lands and therefore being turned into an environmental refugee.
Previous predictions from the International Panel on Climate Change have proven conservative, so some believe the impacts could be even larger.
It's happening a lot faster than we thought, and we have very little time to do something about it.
Because national governments were given the opportunity to negotiate and challenge the scientists' findings before their work was made public, there were some concerns the conclusions would be watered down. But independent monitors inside the negotiating room say, by and large, that was not the case.
If the world is warming, so clearly it must be warming.
In that room, the United States was blamed for not doing enough to cut greenhouse gas emissions. But this Canadian climate scientist says Canada has accomplished even less than the Americans.
They get a lot of bad press because they rejected Kyoto, but in fact, our greenhouse gas emissions have risen almost twice the rate that the Americans have since 1990. So we do not have a leg to stand on.
What the scientists would not do is tell the world what to do. That, they say, is the job of people and politicians, but they were emphatic. The time to act is now. David Common, CBC News, Paris.
It is real, it's happening, it's here now. And I'm hoping that the attention that this IPCC report brings to the issue will further convince governments to actually take action.
This is what's already happening in Canada. The Arctic sea ice is already shrinking. Arctic permafrost is thawing. There is less snow, especially at lower levels in the mountains. The sea level is rising. The ocean is getting warmer, and carbon dioxide is making the water more acidic. There is more rain in some areas, but in places like Canada's boreal forest, increases in forest fires and pine beetle infestation are an indication of drier summer climate and the increased likelihood of drought. Perhaps most sobering of all, the report says that even if emissions are cut right now, models show that warming will continue for hundreds of years. And that's News in Review. I'm Carla Robinson. Thanks for watching. Opening arguments. A courtroom in British Columbia begins hearing one of the most notorious murder cases in Canadian history.
I'm here for my mom, I support her. I'm here for myself. I just want closure. I want justice, justice, justice.
Today on News in Review, the trial of Robert Pickton. Hello, I'm Carla Robinson. This is a story about a pig farmer from Port Coquitlam, BC, who is accused of being Canada's worst ever serial killer. But this is also the story of 26 women, his alleged victims. They are mostly women who disappeared from difficult lives in the downtown east side of Vancouver. 5 years after he was charged, Robert Pickton is now on trial for the deaths of 6 of those women. The CBC's Natalie Clancy reported on the trial's opening day in late January.
Pickton was driven into the courthouse to face 6 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Serena Abbotsway, Mona Wilson, Andrea Josbury, Brenda Wolfe, Georgina Papin, and Marnie Frey. Crown Prosecutor Daryl Previtt outlined the case for the 12 jurors, saying the Crown intends to prove their murders were the work of one man, the accused, Robert William Pickton, who over the course of several years had these women to his home. There, the Crown intends to prove he murdered them, butchered their remains, and disposed of them. The Crown says in the early hours of the 2002 search of Pickton's trailer, police found an asthma inhaler with Serena Abbotsway's name on it. And in a motorhome on the property, investigators say Mona Wilson's blood was found splattered in significant amounts. At the Pickton farm, police used excavators, conveyor belts, and anthropologists to sift through soil. Eventually, they say they found more human bones, some of the remains belonging to Georgina Papin, Brenda Wolfe, and Marnie Frey. The Crown says one witness will describe how she saw Pickton butcher a woman in his slaughterhouse, and that Pickton told other witnesses he killed women. The Crown quoted Pickton telling an undercover officer planted in the cell next to his that he was guilty of 49 murders, saying, "I was going to do one more, like make it an even 50. The Crown says Pickton added that he used an animal parts processing plant to dispose of bodies, a plant he routinely used in his pig butchering business. The jury was told, not only will you have the accused statements where he admits to being responsible for the deaths of women at the farm, the Crown will show that Robert William Pickton also had the means, the expertise, and the opportunity to kill these 6 women.
At the end of the day, we'll be asking the jury or inviting the jury to conclude that it was Mr. Pickton that was responsible for the murder and deaths of these 6 women.
Solely Mr. Pickton?
Yes.
But Pickton's defense lawyer says the Crown didn't tell the whole story. Mr. Pickton did not kill or participate in the killing of the 6 women he's accused of murdering, said Peter Ritchie. He told the jury they should consider Pickton's intellectual competence and sophistication as they hear the evidence. The only hint of the defense's strategy came when the jury was told to pay special attention to Pickton's relationship with his elusive brother David, who co-owns the Pickton property. Listen especially carefully to what the police officers tell Mr. Pickton during the course of this long interview about the police seizure and the search that is taking place on the farm and the impact the investigation of the farm will have on David Pickton and the business.
Listening to all of it on that first day, the families of the women Pickton is accused of killing, the CBC's Chris Brown talked to some of them.
In the pouring rain and twilight of early morning, the spectators lineup snaked around the New Westminster Courthouse as relatives of some of Vancouver's missing women were met by a mass of reporters and cameras.
It's the most extreme thing that I've ever had to go through, and it's only the beginning.
No family has endured more media scrutiny in the lead up to this trial than the Freys. They have tried vigorously to put a human face on the woman who is officially count 6, Marnie Frey.
They weren't just garbage, they weren't throwaways. And we all need to realize that and remember that these girls that are gone were human beings and they were all loved by everybody.
I'm here for my mom, to support her, and I'm also here for the other family members that have lost people, and I'm here for myself. I just want closure. I want justice.
So too do groups representing Native women. Overwhelmingly, those on the list of the missing were First Nations. Today they were remembered. Then, as the gruesome details of the Crown's case were revealed in court, the horror of it all proved too much for some. As she left the courtroom, Lynn Frey seemed shaken.
I can't say nothing till after. I think I'm still kind of in shock. It's a reality, but it hasn't really sunk in yet. I'm hoping I'll be able to sleep tonight.
Others were more direct in expressing their revulsion.
All you guys here ask how we feel or all that, you know, of course, how would you feel if that was your daughter?
This information in this trial is so gut-wrenching to listen to. I can't imagine ever hearing it and getting used to it.
It seems a lot of Canadians felt that way. Here again is Chris Brown on a difficult trial and the difficult decisions news organizations faced about how to cover it.
At the CBC's The Early Edition, they've never heard from so many angry listeners.
I personally have no interest in the details of these horrifying murders.
I don't want to know all the gory details.
Almost all of the calls that we got were from people who said, we just don't want to hear about this.
Staff at this Vancouver elementary school went as far as faxing every media outlet in the city, telling them enough about the Pickton case.
I think that young children are going to hear this, and it's my job and everybody's job. It's everybody's job to protect children in any way that we can.
For the news media, the case has prompted a lot of soul-searching. The Vancouver Sun, led by its editor-in-chief, took the unusual step of printing two versions of each day's story, one on the front page with graphic details, the other without.
We felt that it wasn't the trial per se that was going to bother most people. It was just some of the content, and some of the content is beyond what most people are comfortable hearing or being exposed to.
On the TV side, local news and the networks went big with the trial. So were people tuning in? The ratings suggest there was no spike in viewers. As for whether there's too much coverage, author Stevie Cameron, who's writing a book about the Pickton case, says no, not when it touches on so many important public interest issues.
I have been waiting as a reporter for 5 years to have it come out, and it's such a relief to all of us to have this over with. We can tell Canadians what we know. I don't think people are going to lose interest in this.
There's more to this story than the horrific details being heard in court. The women who disappeared had families who cared about them, worried about them, and hoped to find justice on their behalf. Some of the women had children, like Brittany Frey. She is now a teenager who is struggling to deal with what happened to her mother. This report by the CBC's Natalie Clancy aired just before the trial began.
She's an angry 14-year-old. Been kicked out of school, never does what she's told. Brittany Frey wants to know why her mother is dead.
I'm still at the age where I don't kind of really understand it. I know that she's been taken from this world, but you have to be strong, move on, and hold your head up high.
Frey's mother, Marnie, is one of 6 women Robert William Pickton is accused of murdering. Marnie Frey grew up in Campbell River, loved fishing with her dad and playing with her friends. Then she started to rebel. By the time Marnie was in her teens, she was hooked on drugs.
Then she got pregnant with Brittany, and she continued doing the drug scene. And it was shortly after she had Brittany as she started shooting heroin.
You have the same teeth as Marnie does. You have the same
Lynn
speech.
Frey thought for sure that after Brittany came along, her stepdaughter would